Y'all, this show was everything. Hey, welcome to the Double Minority. Today we are going to be discussing Little Fires Everywhere Season 1, which I think it's only going to be one season. Little Fires Everywhere originally is a book by Celeste Nig, and it takes place in Shaker Heights, Ohio. Now, I already had read or learned about Shaker Heights, Ohio when I was younger, also in a documentary about the things dealing with race that happened in Shaker Heights, Ohio. Has a long history, and yes, it is a real place. A lot of viewers did not know this. And the story takes place in Shaker Heights, and it is about two women primarily, Mia and Elena, and how their lives intertwine and interact. But the most notable thing about Little Fires Everywhere is how it discusses racial microaggression. So you may be viewing and asking, what is a microaggression? Let me explain that for you.
A microaggression is a term used for brief and commonplace daily verbal or behavioral indignities, whether intentional or unintentional, that communicate hostile, derogatory, or negative attitudes towards stigmatized or culturally marginalized groups.
So, if you watch the show, you see all of these microaggressions and you see these subtle forms of racism, especially coming from the more privileged characters, primarily Lexi, as well as Elena and Elena's friend who adopted the Asian daughter. So there are several instances of this. For example, when Elena says,
Hey.
Hi, I'm Pearl.
Oh, you two don't know each other?
No.
Oh, you're gonna love each other. I'm sure you have so much in common.
or when Lexi says,
See, that is exactly what happens when they don't go to college.
They.
People.
Black people?
now I'm gonna go into why microaggressions specifically negatively impact people of color.
The reason microaggressions are so harmful is because they are a subtle and soft form of racism. It's not that they're that over the top, in your face, blatantly offensive form. It is just that skirts the line, oh, I didn't mean it like that, or oh, I'm sorry, I would never mean that. That's why they're such problematic statements. And another issue is that many people that practice microaggressions or that might say them don't even realize that they're doing so. And a lot of times they don't realize it until they're called out. And then these are those liberal types who are perceived liberal or perceived democratic, progressive. And when they're called out, it's, oh my God, I'm absolutely not racist. I have so many black friends. This is the model person of Elena and Lexi. Oh, my boyfriend is black, right? And this is such a problem because microaggressions, at the end of the day, they are also responsible for the continuation and perpetuation of systemic racism.
All right, so when it comes to Elena, let's just take a quick deep dive into her and her mess.
Now, when it comes to Elena, let me say first and foremost that Reese Witherspoon plays her character to complete perfection. I'm still kind of upset that she did not get the Emmy nomination for this role. So first of all, Elena is just self-centered, she's self-righteous, she is the epitome of a woman with privilege. Remember in the first episode, the conversation that she had with her family about meeting Mia.
Wow, she's very attractive. African American.
What does that matter?
Could I get the pasta?
And an artist.
You know it's not all for you, right?
Brian says his parents say we should say black now.
Well, Jesse Jackson says African American and he's on television.
Then she effectively turns Mia into her maid, and she's only doing this because she believes she's being a good Samaritan. She said it felt good to help people, right? And it felt good for her. It wasn't about her caring about anything that had to do with Mia or Pearl and their feelings. She's concerned entirely about images. She gave up on her future with what we can assume to be her true love that she was with in college in order to live this perfect life in this suburban neighborhood. And she had a total disconnect with Izzy to the point that she lost her daughter in the end to her trying to keep up appearances, so much to the point that she still called Lexi perfect at the end of the series, refusing to accept the truth of the matter that her daughter was a fuck up. She says several microaggressions throughout the series. Remember that particular scene with the fortune cookie?
Hey, so the fortune cookies, are those because she is
Chinese. It's clever, isn't it?
In addition, there is that dinner scene itself. She re-emphasizes us of a main theme throughout the entire series that we see when her and Mia have that conversation for the first time. Mia tells her the following.
I'm sorry,
Why are you still here?
It's my job to be here, unless you'd rather I not be.
Did you think you were just gonna waltz into my house and pretend like nothing ever happened?
Elena, this isn't about you. It's not about me. It's about a child who belongs with her mother.
Exactly. Her mother is Linda.
You and I are never gonna agree on this because we are very different people.
I agree. You're manipulative and deceitful, with no sense of the rules or consequences, just like your friend Bibi.
Okay, Elena.
I'm sorry, but someone has to say this to you. You know what else you have in common with your friend? You're both terrible mothers. I mean, honestly, it's a miracle that Pearl is as lovely and wonderful as she is.
It's not a miracle. She is mine, and I am a good mother.
Oh, really? Because in my book, a good mother puts her daughter's needs before her own. A good mother makes good choices. And she doesn't drag a child from town to town, school to school. She doesn't smoke marijuana. Just leave her daughter to fend for herself. And she really doesn't leave a baby alone in the cold in front of a fire station.
You didn't make good choices. You had good choices. Options that being rich and white and entitled gave you.
Again, that's the difference between you and me. I would never make this about race.
Elena, you made this about race when you stood out there in the street and begged me to be your maid.
This is not working out. I think this is going to be your last day.
You think?
Is this all just a plan with you and Bibi to worm your way into our lives to get to Mirabelle? Why did you even take this job?
I took this job to protect my kid.
From what?
From you.
I thought we were friends.
White women always want to be friends with their maid. I was not your maid, Elena, and I was never your friend.
And we know Mia is completely right. Throughout the series, Elena reinforces this idea that people have good choices, right? Or that she's made the right choices, completely ignoring her privilege. Remember when Lexi was getting into Yale, she had to say this about the essay question.
Remember that, honey. It was very political. You know, I, for one, have a real issue with this Yale essay topic. You know, your father and I worked very hard your entire life to prevent you from having any hardship, and now you have to just go and try and drum one up.
I expect Yale to come up with a better question, right? I mean, it is Yale, after all.
That's right, exactly. I mean, I feel like they're sort of saying if you're not raised by a crack-addicted mother who can barely make ends meet, what do you get punished for it? That seems silly.
I don't think there's a lot of crack addicts' daughters applying to Yale.
Exactly, that's my point, Moody. I mean, and then why put on some sort of farce? They're gonna punish you because you have good parents who've made good choices on your behalf?
In addition to that, she helped her friends to get the baby back, not being able to understand how Bibi had to make those choices because of the circumstances that she was facing in life, whereas somebody like Elena would have never had to make that choice. Ultimately, I do want to say that by the end of this series, Elena has felt the weight of her circumstances as she's sitting there watching her house burn down. The little fires everywhere that she chose to ignore grew into something bigger that she had to face the consequences and deal with.
Okay, so that was Elena. So now let's get into some of the stuff Lexi was doing.
The relationship between Lexi and Pearl highlights a class difference between young girls in the modern world, and it's a matter of naivete versus manipulation. Lexi is basically Elena 2.0. She simply not only uses Pearl, but also her boyfriend to enhance her image in a 90s America that is growing to be more progressive. Like Elena, she is unaccepting of her privilege to the point where she doesn't even believe it exists. Even after she uses Pearl's story to get into Yale and has an abortion under Pearl's name. She even goes to Mia looking for some type of sympathy, but of course we know she doesn't get that satisfaction.
Thanks.
You good?
Mia,
Yeah.
do you think that I made the right decision?
Only you know that.
Yeah, but if you were in my position, if you were me,
I'm not you.
do you think that I did the wrong thing?
You want to know what I think? I think my daughter skipped school to help you, and you thanked her by using her name and then demanding that she take care of you. I spent 2 months cooking your dinners, working in your house. You never so much as uttered a thank you. And now you want more. Pearl may love to give and give to you, but I do not. I'm done.
I'm sorry, I didn't have anywhere else to go.
You had plenty of places to go and plenty of people who care. You have no concept of what it's like to not have anyone. Don't insult your own intelligence by pretending otherwise. When you're done, wash out your own mug. For once.
Mia honestly reads Lexi her rights and tells her exactly how it is. Izzy is the only one of the children to call out both Lexi and her mom, but they actively ignore her and continue to reinforce each other's selfish ego. Her boyfriend adds another dimension to her character. I loved him. He wants to genuinely believe that he can date a white girl and race not be an issue, but he's continuously disappointed when reality proves him wrong. Finally, he accepts that there is no point in trying to salvage what would take years of experience for his girlfriend to understand.
I wasn't trying to do something that was so wrong. I was just doing what I thought that I had to do.
Lexi, you stole her discrimination as your own. You didn't have to fucking do that.
Fine, then if I'm such a shitty person, then why did you have sex with me? Why did you say that you love me? Why did you date me for the last year and a fucking
Because
half,
I did
Brian?
love you.
You know that I got...
What? Say it.
I think that you should go. Please just go.
It isn't until Lexi accepts the fact that she's not perfect and that Elena has been projecting her crooked views upon her that she's able to grow as a character and fall in line with the rest of her siblings as they rebel.
And then you also have the situation with the Asian woman, I believe her name was Bibi, and her baby. So what happened with that?
The story of Bibi as well as Mia are arguably the most controversial because they both involve children and their mothers. And they also emphasize the differences in class and the power that money has. You really start to see why it becomes somewhat of an issue when non-people of color raise children that are of color, because you see them touting around these microaggressions, and ultimately people who are privileged, as we've seen in this show, don't want to believe that racism exists. But when you have all these microaggressions, it ends up leading to harmful and broken identities, especially when you are raising children of color in the suburbs with parents that don't believe certain issues that affect them are a problem. Ultimately, what we end up seeing is that the community sides with the white mother. She ultimately gets custody of the baby, but as we see at the end of it, Bibi eventually goes in and she takes back what Mia and her believe is hers. And this is why it ends up being so controversial.
What I believe is the most notable about all of this, though, is how the show handles these characters. These characters, by the end of it, actually and eventually grow. Because as I stated before, subtle racism is not as obvious, and a lot of times people who practice it, they don't even realize that they are being racist in a way. And I believe it took so many changes for Elena and Lexi to grow as a people by the end of this series, and I do feel as though it was well earned. All right, so that's my analysis on that. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and learned something. If you want to continue to follow me, I'm just getting up and started and getting comfortable with myself during this quarantine. The link is down below, and you can follow me on my social media, which is Double Minority with 2 Y's. That is on Instagram and as well as Twitter. I was like, wait a minute. All right, so thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day. Bye. Elena is Karen, or is Karen Elena? Did Elena make Karen?